We are live.
Okay, let me get
There's a few
settled.
people online, show me.
Recording in progress.
Tom's online.
Yeah, should I check? Can you accept him?
So Greg is planning on, he can upgrade anyone who's coming in to be a panelist. I don't have the ability to do that yet.
Okay.
Yeah, anybody right now, because I'm just a regular, I'm
Okay.
signed in as a regular viewer as well.
Okay.
But I'll just text Greg and see if he sees anybody on there.
I think I can approve of them off there. Hello.
You're doing good. Good. Yeah, Tom, Pete Williamson. Oh, I work for the city. Oh, nice to meet you. $500,000.
Supporting this project is.
Let me go see if here. I think there was.
See, I was listening to you.
I have to list all my points again.
You're the one that talked the most about it.
Yeah, Tom's not on.
Oh, wait, we're being recorded now.
He's not, who did you see up there?
You are at
Me and Greg?
guest, Greg, and upstairs conference room.
Okay.
So,
Maybe but Greg's there, so if Tom comes in, he'll let us know. Did anyone talk to Tom before the meeting?
I
know
haven't,
if he's
I
coming?
haven't heard from him, but I mean, I think we can call him order. We have enough people here.
That's fine with me, and if he pops in, Greg can just. sign
Let him in. Okay, great. All right, so we'll call the meeting to order. We'll start off with attendance. I'm Heather Nagel, Vice Chair.
What? I'm like, just join the meeting.
Tom, are you here? I will start with attendance. Heather Daigle, Vice Chair of the Affordable Housing Trust.
ENFA, member of the trust.
Member of the trust.
All of us?
Yeah.
Pete Williamson, Grants Administrator of Housing for the city of Gloucester.
Bob Gillis, member of the trust.
Alex Kopman, Community Development Director and member of the trust.
I'm Jay Boylan, member of the trust.
So we don't have much to go over today, except for the remaining ARPA funds. You want to take this away? Should I pass it?
Yeah, we can give a little overview of it all. So just to recap, at the last meeting, the trust voted to award the two outstanding projects that hadn't been decided on yet. The 50R Maplewood project, which was awarded $105,000, and the Harbor Light Homes project, which was awarded $500,000. So that brings the total of the 1.5 million. We've awarded about 1.2, and there's 213,000 remaining. So this evening, we wanted to talk about where we could award that remaining funding. And we have Pete Williamson here, who administers our CDBG housing programs for first-time home buyers and housing rehab. And what we're thinking is that it may make most sense to award the funding for the housing rehab program. At the last meeting, we had talked about first-time home, the home buying program. But the big issue here is that the funds need to be under contract by the end of the year. And there hasn't been a lot of demand in the first-time home buying program. However, there
Plenty
is,
of demand, there's no supply.
because there's no supply, exactly.
No affordable
No
supply.
big bet, thank you, yeah.
But there is a lot of housing in the city that's not in good shape that needs to be rehabbed. And we have a waiting list of over 25 some people for the program right now. And so we're confident that we could get that under contract by the end of the year. So I wanted to hand it over to Pete to just tell you a little bit more about the housing rehab program.
So the housing rehab helps individual homeowners or homeowners that own one or two, single or two family homes. And also other homeowners that own three or more buildings with three or more units. I tend to get three groups of people. A homeowner that can't afford to get repairs done, roofs. I have 5 furnaces that came in this month. Doors, windows, that kind of thing, but they don't want to sell, or they're elderly and they don't want to move out, they have nowhere to go. And then I have a group of investor homeowners who own multifamilies. The nice thing about doing work for them is we help subsidize them, but then we can put an affordable housing restriction on 51% of their units for a minimum 15 years.
So at what rate? 80, 60, 30?
80. I do. So homeowners, individual homeowners have to qualify, income qualify. Investor homeowners have to have their tenants fill out paperwork saying what they make for income. So the tenants actually income qualify for the building owner.
Mhm.
And then they have to guarantee that they'll keep it an affordable rental rate pursuant to Gloucester for 15 years.
So there's a deed, actual deed restriction?
There's a deed restriction.
Okay.
yes.
What was the other part of that deed restriction that you said? Was it that your 50%?
So if it's a 3-family, 2 of them have to be deed restricted. If it's a 4, 2, if it's a 5, 3, it has to be at least 51%.
I think
Are
we-
2 families eligible?
Yes, 2 families are eligible, but, for example, I have a furnace, the homeowner, he lives in one and his daughter lives in the other. So I can't,
Hmm,
single and 2 families, we don't deed restrict,
right, of course.
you know?
Okay.
And then this money is all paid back upon sale or transfer of the property.
Yeah.
And then reused for the program again.
The only question I had was for the ARPA program, everything was supposed to be 60% AMI. Is it gonna be an issue if it's 80 on the deed restrictions?
So we're,
Great question.
we are looking to verify with the treasury to make sure that this is an eligible use of ARPA funding. Everything that we see in the guidelines suggests that it would be, because it's an existing CDBG program.
So, and when I say 80%, my 80% is the income restriction to be able to have the work done, not what they're being charged.
Okay,
So for example, a family, single person, as long as they don't make, at 80%, as long as they don't make more than, I think it's 83,000, qualifies for the first time home buyer or housing rehab.
mhm,
So a family of, 4 is, I think, 100, and they can't make more than 140. That's the 80% limit.
okay,
And so what, how does the tenant's income factor in again?
So if a homeowner owns multiple, building with multiple units, he has to guarantee that they have to guarantee that they'll rent to an income qualified person and won't charge more than the approved rate from HUD.
So it's not the homeowner's income that is the determining factor. It's
For 1 and 2 families.
for 1 and 2.
But for 3 or more, it's the tenant's income.
Okay, but for 1 and 2s,
It's the homeowner's income
Okay,
that qualifies.
Who manages that fee?
As
Who
far as
manages the affordability of the restricted units?
we do, we
For the
we
tenant.
survey and they have to sign, they have to sign an agreement. They have a contract with the city.
You have to like income qualify annually?
Yeah, we try to do it annually, but it's usually every couple of years.
Is there a lease required in there?
Sometimes there is, but most they are because most aren't month to month, so.
you gotta have some way to monitor it, so.
Yeah, we have a
Lease
monitoring
would be-
process. The problem is we don't have enough people
to
to do it
oversee
every year, so we try to do it every couple of years.
Right, but I assume there would have to be a lease as part of the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see what is being
Yeah.
charged.
But I guess there was a good point that was made, that 1 or 2 unit would not qualify in the, as far as the subsidized housing inventory.
Right, unless it's, so, if it's a 2-unit that's not homeowner occupied, then one of the units would be affordable. I just haven't come across many 2 families that aren't owner occupied.
If it's deed restricted at 80, then it qualifies on the subsidized.
Okay. Yep.
In terms of eligible use for ARPA funding, we are in the process of verifying that with the treasury. We know that the first time home buying program is eligible because it's stated clearly in the guidelines. It's a little less specific in terms of the housing rehab program.
I believe the rehab program actually is in it. It's just the question of that 60% AMI, if that's, but other than that,
I think it is too.
as long as it's not cosmetic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, usually anything that
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do cosmetic
Right,
stuff
exactly.
anyways.
Yeah.
It's a HUD program, and usually, you're safe using ARPA funding for anything that HUD is already
Right.
funding, because it's benefiting a vulnerable, community, which is really the intention behind American Rescue.
So I know what you're saying about first-time home buyer loan had to be under contract by the end of the year, because that was a hard, ARPA requirement, right? So where does the rehab money come from? HUD, right?
Yeah, but what we would be doing is,
I was just curious
Yeah,
how much
yeah.
money comes in for the rehab program, and couldn't that go over, some of it could go over to the first-time home buyer program?
Well, some
That's
of
what I
my, yeah, some of
Like, are
my,
they two buckets, two separate buckets of money?
we have a money bucket from HUD. It goes to public services, action, keeping, open door, that kind of thing. Public facilities occasionally, like we did the fence at Burnham's Fields. Housing rehab and first-time home buyer are in the housing bucket. And we decide every year or every 5 years, how much percentage is being allotted to every program. So,
My question is really about, can you shift from one to the other in order for the first-time home buyer program to get money that we have to distribute?
well, basically, if there's this trust money that gets used for the housing rehab program, that we would free up more of the HUD money that we have that could be used for first-time home buying. So it's sort of like a shift in that
Okay,
sense.
so you see what I'm asking?
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean the first-time home buyer program won't benefit.
oh, no, absolutely. And I was saying, I was telling Heather, I haven't had a first-time home buyer in 54 weeks, and I have 3 people two houses under agreement.
I know.
So,
But having this extra money for the housing rehab where we have a waiting list of over 25 people, being able to use the ARPA funding there would then leave more of the CDBG money left over for first-time home buying and additional housing.
and I have till June 30th for the CDBG money, whereas the ARPA money has to be under contract 6 weeks.
And you have 25 applications.
Yeah, I have plenty of people that are all qualified, just waiting for funding.
And so I really like the possibility of using the funding in this way because it addresses the existing housing stock. I mean, everybody here knows how difficult it is to actually create affordable housing. So I think having the ability to address what is already here, taking housing in poor condition, improving it, potentially, getting people out of a bad situation with a landlord, but then also being able to create some deed restricted units from the existing housing stock as well, is a really good thing to be able to do, and it aligns with the trust strategic goal, to prevent, displacement and preserve the existing housing stock. So I think in that sense, this could be a powerful way to use the funding.
How does the rents get set? I realize that every rental place is different, but what makes it affordable according to this?
Peter,
rehab?
So
Went over
HUD has rental limits.
Is it the same as Section 8? Those?
I'm not sure,
Okay.
but they have rental limits for CDBG money. Based
Right, I was
on,
just wondering which ones
based,
they would be, yeah.
well, I mean, the ARPA money is a different bucket than
Yeah.
CDBG, so we could figure that out.
Is it based on the Boston?
Yeah, it's based on the
MSA?
Boston, Quincy.
it's-
Yeah,
And it's based on the area median income.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so 80% of that or whatever it is.
Yeah, the rents are still
Pretty high.
pretty high, and I have a lot of homeowners that I've done through the program that aren't even close to the maximum amount they can charge. So,
Oh,
That's the
God.
affordable with a small a.
I know,
Yeah.
it's very frustrating. I wish we could get.
Yeah, it
big-
is.
Big affordable.
Yeah.
yeah. And I
Um,
also think it's important to help the lower middle income as well. I mean,
Yes.
right, and I have a good amount of single family homeowners that, especially elderly, that need, like I said, need a furnace
Oh,
or,
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
don't want to sell and
Mhm.
really, would have to move if they did.
That's a
so.
big cost if it goes on, yeah.
So I'm just curious how Mass Save, right? So I don't know a lot about it, but I'm just curious, because they do the same kind of thing.
It's different now.
Incentives, but
Yeah.
I think they have to put the money up front.
So they used to would replace your oil furnace or burner. Then they would only do it if you convert it to gas.
Right,
Now they'll only do it if you put splits in, heat pumps in.
okay.
So there are people that live in West Gloucester that don't want heat pumps. They
Right.
want oil or they want their gas, you know,
I get it.
so.
And heat pumps aren't really great in this area.
They're not really what?
They're not really great in this area. You almost need a combination system because the heat pumps get too cold in the wintertime.
Right, Mass Save makes you, if you put a heat pumps in and you have a gas system, they make you cap your gas system.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's there as a backup theoretically, but.
Yeah.
Not really.
I have a heat pump and an oil. Well, I also have gas, but it doesn't heat. Well, it sort of does. It's like, I try to
Sounds
get
like
warm
you're
any way I can. It's a challenge in my old house.
You're covered.
So, okay, that, I think, I mean, to me, that sounds good, that if we're allocating our remaining funds to you, that frees up more funds to be able to.
Do more.
To do more, whether it's home buyer or.
What's your average loan?
It's for a single family, it's 25, up to 25,000. Two family, it's 40, and a three family, a little more, it's 50. Does anyone want handouts on both programs?
Yeah,
Get extras, that'd be great.
So single family is 25, multifamily, say it again.
Two families up to 40, three families up to 50. And the reason those limits, if you go over that, you have to delay. Which is a whole other, we
is
don't,
that part of your program?
no, we used to have a program before I got here, but,
Didn't have the staff capacity to administer it.
Well, this is nice. This is a really good breakdown.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, thank you.
You just have, you have both of them or which one?
I have.
Let me see
one-
the front of it.
first time home buyers coming.
Looks like this.
Oh, yeah, no, that's the first time home buyer.
Mhm.
Oh, and the income qualifications on the back of that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
make sure.
It shows you.
It's on
Yeah, I
the
just wanted
website.
to-
Yeah, and these are 2022,
I'm
but
guessing it's
it's
sort
been
of
upgraded.
Section 8.
They've been up, they've been increased substantially.
You mean the HUD guidelines have been?
Yeah, the high guidelines.
Yeah.
So for right now, for a I think a single person, it's 86,000.
Oh, wow.
Two people is 90 something, three people is 110, I believe. So,
It was a little before.
Yeah, still, it's hard to get used to.
So if the rest of the packet is the same, maybe you could just send us this page.
yeah, I have it.
So we're talking 213,000,
620.
600, wait,
213, 620.
You mentioned a minute ago,
Two hundred
Deanna,
and
about the
thirteen thousand, 620.
different bucket that we would be, say if we put this in, then the city puts in to us.
No, don't put into us, but so that we have to spend this 213,600.
Yes.
But then the affordable housing, what are we talking about? The rehab program money would get put to the first time buyer program. So that it would kind of feed back into the first time buyer program. He just doesn't have enough applications to fund all of this
For first time home.
for first time home buyer. He's
No, I
got
get that.
plenty for the affordable.
Yeah.
But I think putting the funding here supports that goal of rehabilitation and preventing displacement. And then it also frees up funding from the program that can be used for more first-time. home.
Oh, it's a big problem for someone who's aged in place in their home and they need a roof and they need windows and they need a boiler and it's really a
Yeah.
hardship. So $25,000 supports a lot of rehab.
Yeah, and when you're getting the multifamily rehab projects, then you're also creating deed restricted units from existing housing stock. And I can tell you from working in other communities, there's very few communities that are able to do something like that, create affordable housing from existing housing stock. And with how difficult it is to get housing built around here, that's a good way to make an impact.
If you're an investor, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
if you're an investor, Section 8 tenants are attractive. I mean, the rental rates are high, so it's an attractive investment. And, I would think people are likely to be willing to go with a deed restriction.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a perfect example. I have a homeowner. It was his family's home. He moved. He's in West Gloucester now. So his house is downtown. He needed a roof and a refrigerator and a stove. He has a Section 8 tenant. So they're very happy to put the restriction on because it's zero interest deferred payment until they sell the property. So, and I do all the legwork.
Mhm.
How do they find you? How do people find out about this program?
I don't know how they did it before. I table and farmer's market and the energy fair tomorrow night and or
Yeah,
or
just
people
real
know, or
fast.
they know someone.
Yeah.
Who knows that the
Who did
program
it?
exists,
Sure,
right?
referrals from Action, Wellspring, I would
Yeah.
imagine,
Yeah.
you know, organizations like that.
Mhm.
Yep.
We tell people about your program all the time.
So tell us again, what? So you have 25 people waiting.
Oh, I have about 75 people waiting, but I have people that are already in. So when I started, there was 125 people on the list. We've gone through those. I've helped a lot of them. A lot of them have sold, a lot of them have passed away. But the waiting list for rehab is always. So I probably have 25 people that are all qualified,
Oh, okay, so of the 25.
ready to go.
How many of them are investors and how many homeowners are owner occupied?
Two are investors, the rest are owner
Oh,
occupied.
that's wonderful.
Mm.
And the owner occupieds, and not to put you on the spot, but, single families, two families typically,
Mostly single families. There are a couple of two families.
yeah, okay.
But mostly single families.
Tell me again, the deed restriction for the single family?
There
There
isn't.
isn't one.
Or for a two family.
They can they voluntarily? do-
So for a two family, the rule of thumb has always been if it's family occupied, like so a lot of two families are family occupied, all, we don't deed restrict it. We do deed restrict. It depends on the amount of work and. I mean, we can always make it happen. It's fine on a two family,
But single families
single families
are
now,
not. So like if
because
somebody's aging, so there's no restriction, right? So they just,
You have to be income eligible. too.
you have to be income
but I
eligible.
mean, there's there's no. I mean, if they're.
Oh, say
I
they
don't
get
wanna-
all the improvements and then they die the
Yeah,
following
like I
year,
was
the
trying to
house
come up with
gets
a nice
sold.
way of saying
The city's
that.
put all this money into the house.
Right, we get the money back.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it goes back into the program.
It's a
You've got
lien
a
on the
lien on the
property.
property.
Got it.
Yeah.
I thought I heard
Yeah.
you say that. So there
Yeah.
is a lien, that's the.
Oh,
part.
absolutely. There's a
Okay.
mortgage.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then if it's
Okay.
applicable,
So
there's an
that's the
affordable
restriction.
housing
That's what I was
restriction,
getting
yeah.
at. Okay.
So
Yeah, it's
you mentioned
recorded.
you think you got two
Yeah.
investors?
It's recorded.
Yeah, I know two right off
Two
the top of my
investors.
head.
So are they, 3 or 4 units? or-
One's three and one of the men owns three or four families.
I mean,
And you'd be getting deed restricted units from.
From all of them, yeah, especially them,
I mean,
yeah.
that's attractive. I
That's-
mean, you don't do it just for that reason. There's need across the board, but I mean, that's attractive for the city. That gets our subsidized housing inventory up.
Right, and I've been averaging 5 to 10 a year
Oh, wow.
restrictions.
Wow, that's great. I didn't know that. That's terrific.
Yeah, he's done an incredible job with the program.
Yeah,
Yay, Peter.
that's awesome, really. I wasn't aware of that. That's one of the things that we needed. We need for the subsidized
Oh, yeah.
housing inventory to go to increase. You know, we'd be nice to reach that 10% someday. You know?
Even if just for a minute.
Yeah.
How do you determine, I see one of the applicant eligibility and underwriting for the rehab is, borrower is unable to secure conventional financing for needed home repairs. How do you determine that?
Because if,
Get a rejection letter
yeah, I
from a
mean,
lender.
if you're, well, no, if you're 75 years old and you have no income, you make 22,000 a year on social security. Then they
That's,
just,
that's an easy one.
yeah, they just don't do it,
But, I mean, what if you're not that person? What if you're, say a middle-aged person or a couple owns a two-family or a three-family, presumably if they're employed and all that, they can. Your conventional financing.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Depending on their situation.
Well, it's 0% interest, which is very attractive, but you still have to.
right, they have to income qualify.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of, I look at all their financials. If they have 50,000 in the bank, they don't get approved. You know, there's,
Right.
Yeah.
Also, the assets are pretty important.
Yeah,
There's an asset limit.
yes,
Okay.
Yeah, because
And if
yeah,
you
some programs
refinance, pull
look at
money out of
assets,
your
others
house.
don't.
well, I've had a couple of
So,
people, someone called and said, this man needs help. And he came and he filled out the paperwork. He said, why, can't I just pay for this? Yeah,
Sure.
We should have started with that.
Yeah.
It's happened twice.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I was wondering. Yes.
Let me just lay out the cash
And
instead of going through this paperwork.
and I have also had people that qualified that don't want another mortgage on their property or don't want any mortgage on their property, especially even if they don't have a mortgage. They've turned down the program because they don't want.
So they came in the door thinking it was free.
Right. Because at one point, the city had a grant program that
Yes.
over
Yeah.
5 years, it would go away.
That's right. Yeah, I remember it very well. Yeah. That was the first time home buyer program.
Right. And
Probably
HUD,
the rehab program too.
yeah, but HUD has changed that,
Yeah.
Which
keep
is
the
a
money
good thing.
circulating.
so that the money comes back.
Yeah.
That's
that
right.
So
makes
I mean,
sense.
you could always designate the 200,000 to come back to the trust, not to community development too,
That's an
Wow,
interesting.
that's a
That's
thought.
thought.
right? I mean, like, you know, taxes and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yes.
We'll have to look at the mechanics of it, but I like that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
It would dribble in little at a time. But still, you'd get it all back eventually and you could redo it, something else with it.
Well, just to play the devil's advocate, we've got $213,620 available for this program. If we all of a sudden didn't like this program, which I like, I think it's a good use of the funds, but what's our alternative at this point with 6 weeks to go?
we don't have
Yes.
people to
There's no
lose
alternative.
it.
So I'm in favor of it. I think it's a good use of our funds. It stays in our mission.
I'm like,
Well, thanks for being here.
And I'll be working overtime, but believe me, it's, you
It's
know,
worth it,
I
yeah.
think it's nice to
It's a
have
good program.
funding to create affordable housing and to preserve housing.
Yeah.
Really hits all the trust's goals.
I like
Absolutely,
the idea of it
absolutely.
being returned to the housing trust.
Yeah.
A lot.
Keep the
So-
money moving.
I
Get that
would
on
agree with
record.
That.
Yeah.
So Let me ask you a question.
You take a note. Make sure.
Do
Put
the,
that
does
in
the
the
homeowner
minutes.
get to choose their own contractors?
no. If the homeowner has a contractor that they like, they can provide me the contractor's name and they can bid on it as part of the process.
I get it.
I try to get 3 bids. Sometimes you can only get 2, just because
They're busy as
they're
hell.
busy. It's been that way since I started.
Yeah.
If they have a contractor they like and they're more money, they could pay the difference.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's always a possibility.
Okay, that's good to know. So I
Well,
think,
there are
I think we're
certain
looking for a
requirements.
vote on this. If anybody, does anybody have any questions? Because we could always vote.
I'll just say that,
We need a motion.
it should also be contingent on that this is that we verify the use of the treasury. We expect that should be no problem, but we have to verify.
Okay.
Should we wait and vote until we have a confirmation?
I think it would be better to vote with the contingent,
Subject to.
subject to,
Okay.
right now, so that the vote's in place, because again, time is of the essence and getting the funding under contract.
What are you saying, Alex? Verify
That it's a eligible use of ARPA funds with the treasury.
oh, yeah, for sure.
The guideline, from what the guidelines say, it looks like it is, but we just want to make sure that we. confirm
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Well, if
good.
it isn't, it's gonna be precluded from being used, but no harm in putting it in the motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who wants to make a motion on
We're-
that?
I move that we approve the
620?
thank you, MJ. For the Community Development Department for the rehab program.
With the condition that any returned funds
Yeah,
get
subject to.
returned to the.
So you
Affordable
have
Housing
two
Trust.
subject to. One is,
The only subject to with that is it mechanically feasible, right?
Yeah, I don't know why it wouldn't be, but I just being cautious about how that will all work. But if that's possible, I think that's a great idea.
I just wouldn't make it conditional on that, if it can't be done for whatever reason, you're good for it, Pete, right?
Well, it's either gonna go back to you or go back to my program and get reused. It's not just gonna go
Right,
away,
right, right.
you know,
Yeah, we know that.
It's
so,
just where we have limited income coming in.
right. As long as you have an account, I don't think there's any reason it can't go back to you.
I mean, that'd be great. It would be great. That'd be ideal.
well, the
But I
motion
just don't
would
want to
be,
hold it up and jeopardize the funding if it
Okay.
can't be done for whatever reason,
but your motion would be subject to approval by the Treasury Department
The use of funds for the use of the ARPA funds, yes, yeah. And
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
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 All right,
Easy peasy.
That was
yeah,
easy peasy.
good.
It was very helpful.
that was
Yes,
great,
thank
thank you.
That was,
Appreciate
thank
that.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there any other business that anybody needs to go over?
So, I know we voted the 105 on your recommendation. Basically, you gave a great explanation on why the Maplewood Avenue should be a $105,000 grant, and that was approved by the mayor.
Yeah, that, I mean, you made the award and, we've
Great.
sent the contract to Mr. Wheat to sign, and once he signs that, it'll be encumbered.
That's fabulous. I'm very happy about that. It was a good explanation on why it had to be 105 as opposed to what he was asking for, you know? So that's outstanding. Yeah. Great.
New housing, I like it.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, it's amazing the contract's gone out.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
Well, we
Yeah,
did
you
all
guys.
the legwork on the last ones, that this time around was pretty easy.
So you had a template.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the contracts have gone out to everyone. Which ones are back?
The contracts have been signed for, Action, their three Eastern Point
Wellspring,
projects.
Action, YMCA were the first three.
Yep, those have all been signed. Mr. Weeds has gone out. We're waiting for him to sign. We have not sent Harbor Light out yet because we were just waiting for them to send in the paperwork on the title. But I spoke with Andrew today and that should be coming very soon. And he knows that he'll have to sign by the end of the year.
Andrew
And it's
Leonard
ready
or
to go.
Andrew
It's
Brandon.
different. Yeah. So they're aware that we need that. As soon as we get it, he'll get the contract and sign it. But we should be able to get it done by the end of the year.
Yeah, it's important because that's
He
a half a
knows
million
though,
Yeah,
bucks.
I
Yeah.
have no doubt. He'll
That's
make it happen.
important for them and it's important for us.
I know how
Yeah.
Andrew works,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I know.
Yes, I do. The money's already
If the
spent.
money's, the
Yes,
money's
you
spent,
do.
exactly.
That's great.
So I think, yeah, I think we're in a good spot with everything.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, great job all around, getting that money out.
Money spent.
So, with
That's just
your
like
help.
practice for us to think about
Rolling out.
rolling application and coming up with,
Um,
systems and.
And I got the application that you drew up. I haven't reviewed it yet, but I'll let you know if I see anything,
It's
but
basically the same thing. And I think, it'd be important for us to, note in there, after reviewing last month's meeting notes, meeting minutes, that any applicant would not be able to also apply for CPC funding.
I think that's a good idea.
That would be a new development. I mean, it sort of makes sense anyway, since we're gonna get our funding from the CPC. So that would absolutely then be a double dip.
No, double
if we're
dipping.
Doing that,
Yeah.
so.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's good why the CBC is gonna give the housing money to the
Mhm.
trust so that it can be centralized and tracked.
Great.
Motion to adjourn? Oh, yeah, do we need a meeting date for?
I'd like to suggest that we don't, but I don't know if we do or
Because of
not.
the holidays.
Yeah,
I mean, and, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think since we've taken the vote on the remaining funds, we probably don't need to meet.
I mean, unless something comes up.
If something
No.
comes up, then we can
If there's some
schedule it.
glitch in this, then we would need to meet.
We can just maybe say to be determined.
Yeah, we'll keep the space reserved. and
The
then-
only glitch being if the Treasury Department says, no, you can't use that money for rehab.
Yeah.
That's the only glitch I can picture with the motion, right?
Yeah, and I don't think anything falls into that, so I think we'll be. fine.
Yeah. Great.
I think it must be the second.
Third Monday?
Third Monday
It'll be
is
the
the
third
16th.
Monday.
The 16th.
Today is the second.
I'm just gonna hold that time just to be.
I
on the
like
safe
that.
side.
So that would be,
Yeah, and this,
That would be
the space is
16th.
reserved on the 16th from 5 to 6:30, so. We
Oh,
need
it's a
to take it,
maybe.
we'll do it. yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
tentative.
All right. Motion to adjourn?
Someone,
Second.
That would be so
Aye.
All in
fast.
favor?
Yeah.
Aye. I love these fast meetings.
That would be so easy to do the minutes for this meeting.
Yeah. Hey, thank
Do
you.
you want me to do
Oh,
those
thank you.
ones?
Thanks, everyone. Yes.
Yeah, that was very helpful. Thanks, Alex. Good. Thank you, Bob.
Are you shutting it off?
So.
Hey,
is the meeting
um,
off?
Can I get you?
No, it is not.